the 10 greatest biblical creations of God. We will discover the wonders created by the Almighty, from the universe to the presence of human creations. A fascinating journey through the sacred pages and their impact on history and faith. Number 10. Noah's Ark. Noah's Ark is a famous biblical creation attributed to God. According to Judeo-Christian tradition, God instructed Noah to build a huge ship for the purpose of saving his family and a couple of each animal species from the universal flood that was to come. The story is found in the book of Genesis. The story tells that humanity had become corrupted and distanced itself from the ways of God, which led him to decide to purify the earth through a flood that would last 40 days and 40 nights. Noah, being a just and upright man, was commanded to build the ark to protect creatures and preserve life. Noah's Ark was built according to God's instructions, with impressive dimensions that would allow it to house all the animals along with the necessary food during the time of the flood. Once completed, Noah and his family entered the ark along with the pairs of animals that came to it. The flood covered the entire earth during the established time, but the ark floated on the waters, protecting its occupants. After the 40 days, the water level began to drop, and finally, the ark came to rest on Mount Ararat. Once the waters had completely receded, Noah and his family and all the animals left the ark to repopulate the earth. Number 9. The Temple of Solomon. Solomon's Temple is a biblical creation of great historical and religious importance. According to Judeo-Christian tradition, it was built in Jerusalem by King Solomon, son of David, in the 10th century BC. Its construction was carried out to house the Ark of the Covenant, a sacred symbol that contained the tables of the 10 Commandments given by God to Moses. Solomon's temple was conceived as the central place of worship and sacrifice for the people of Israel. It was described as a majestic and elaborate building, with rich materials and architectural details. Its construction was a significant achievement and a manifestation of the power and wisdom of Solomon, who, according to the Bible, received wisdom directly from God. However, this splendor did not last forever. According to biblical accounts, the temple was destroyed twice, first by the Babylonians in 587 BC, and then by the Romans in 70 AD. These destructions marked moments of great sadness and impact in the history of the Jewish people. Solomon's temple has left a lasting legacy in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, as it is considered a sacred site in all of these religions. For Jews, it is a symbol of divine presence and connection with God. In Christianity, it is associated with the life and teachings of Jesus Christ, and in Islam, it is mentioned in the Quran and is associated with the prophets and the worship of God. Number 8. The Tower of Babel. The Tower of Babel is a fascinating biblical story found in the book of Genesis. According to the narrative, Noah's descendants banded together to build a gigantic tower that would reach to the heavens in the ancient city of Babel. The objective behind the construction of this tower was clear. The builders sought to reach the height of God and establish themselves as a powerful civilization, challenging his authority. However, this act of ambition and arrogance provoked the wrath of God. To stop their progress and punish their defiance, God confused the language of the builders, causing them to speak in different languages. This confusion caused chaos and an inability to communicate with each other, leading to the construction project being halted. Due to the language barrier, the builders scattered around the world, forming different cultures and nations, and leaving the Tower of Babel incomplete as a reminder of the importance of humility and respect for divine power. Number 7. The Nephilim Giants. The Nephilim are mentioned in the Bible as a creation of God who lived in ancient times. The term Nephilim comes from Hebrew and is generally translated as the giants or the fallen ones. His story is found mainly in the book of Genesis, chapter 6. According to the biblical account, the Nephilim were the result of the union of the sons of God, which some interpret as angels or celestial beings, with the daughters of men, human beings. This created a race of powerful and giant beings on earth. The presence of the Nephilim was associated with the corruption and evil that had increased in humanity at that time. Their presence became a problem, and God decided to take action. In the flood story, God chose Noah and his family to build an ark and survive the great flood that destroyed all humanity, including the Nephilim, except for those in the ark. Number 6. The Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden is a creation of God mentioned in the Bible, specifically in the book of Genesis. It is presented as a paradisiacal and mythical place where God placed Adam and Eve, the first human beings. According to the biblical account, God created the world in 6 days, and at the end of creation, He established the Garden of Eden in a special place. This garden was full of beauty and abundance, with fruit trees and a variety of plants. In the center of the garden, there was the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. God put Adam and Eve in the garden to care for it and enjoy all it offered, but warned them not to eat from the tree of knowledge. However, the serpent, representing temptation, deceived Eve, who ate the forbidden fruit and then offered Adam to do the same. By disobeying God, Adam and Eve lost their state of innocence and were expelled from Eden. The expulsion from the Garden of Eden symbolizes the rise of sin and the separation between God and humanity. Since then, the Garden of Eden has been considered a utopian and lost place, where the direct connection with God existed before the fall of man. Number 5. The Leviathan. The Leviathan is an amazing biblical creation that appears in the Old Testament, more specifically in the book of Job and the Psalms. Described as a powerful and colossal sea creature, Leviathan is a representation of God's majesty and supreme power over nature. In the Bible, Leviathan is described as a sea monster of gigantic dimensions and unmatched strength. Its appearance is imposing and terrifying, with resistant scales and piercing eyes. Furthermore, he is said to be endowed with enormous strength and is capable of wreaking havoc on the oceans and on land. In some biblical passages, Leviathan is used as a symbol of chaos and destruction, representing evil forces that threaten to challenge divine order. However, in other fragments, it is mentioned as a creation of God, thus demonstrating the Creator's supremacy and control over all creatures, even those that seem immensely powerful and indomitable. Number 4. The sea. In the Bible, the sea is one of God's creations that occupies a prominent place in various passages. Described as a vast expanse of water, the sea is a natural element that symbolizes the greatness and power of God. From Genesis, the first book of the Bible, it is mentioned how God created the sea during the 6 days of creation. In 1 Genesis, chapter 9, verse 10, it is narrated that God separated the waters to form the seas and oceans, while the dry surface gave rise to the earth. The sea plays a significant role in several biblical stories. For example, in Noah's flood, Genesis, chapter 6, verse 9, God uses the water of the flood to purify and renew the earth, while preserving Noah and his family in the ark. Likewise, the sea appears as an obstacle in the path of the people of Israel during their exodus from Egypt. God shows His power by opening the waters of the Red Sea to allow them to cross on dry foot, Exodus, chapter 14, verses 21 to 22, and then closing them to destroy the Egyptian armies that pursued them. In the New Testament, the sea also has symbolic relevance. Jesus Christ performs miracles involving the sea, such as walking on water and calming a violent storm. Matthew, chapter 14, verses 22 to 33, and Matthew, chapter 8, verses 23 to 27, demonstrating His authority over nature and His divinity. Number 3. The earth. In the Bible, the creation of the earth is described in the book of Genesis, in the Old Testament. According to this narrative, God created the earth in 6 days, and on the 7th day he rested. Here is a summary of the main events of the creation of the earth according to the Bible. Day 1. God creates light and separates it from darkness, calling day and night. Day 2. God separates the waters under the sky from the waters above the sky and creates the firmament. Day 3. God causes the waters to gather in one place so that dry land appears. Then God causes the earth to produce grass, plants, and trees. Day 4. God creates the sun, moon, and stars to govern the day and night. Day 5. God creates aquatic creatures and birds to fill the seas and sky. Day 6. God creates land animals and finally creates man and woman in his image and likeness. He gives them the mandate to rule and care for the earth and everything on it. Day 7. God rests, sanctifies, and blesses the 7th day, establishing the concept of Sabbath rest. This account of the creation of the earth in the Bible has been subject to diverse interpretations and is a fundamental part of the beliefs and worldview of many religions and faith communities around the world. Number 2. The New Heaven and the New Earth. In the Bible, the new heaven and the new earth are mentioned in several passages, but one of the most prominent is in the book of Revelation, chapter 21. This prophetic vision presents the culmination of God's plan for the redemption of the humanity and the restoration of all creation. The passage describes how, at the end of time, God will create a new heaven and a new earth, replacing the current heaven and earth, which will be transformed and purified. In this new order, there will be perfect harmony and a state of perfection, without pain, suffering, or death. In this new place, the New Jerusalem is mentioned, a holy and glorious city descending from heaven, prepared like a bride adorned for her husband. This city symbolizes the dwelling place of God and will be the meeting place of the righteous. In the new heaven and the new earth, God will live among his people, and they will be his children. There will be no more tears, no more sadness, no more pain, and all old things will have passed away. Sin and evil will be eliminated, and only goodness, love, and justice will prevail. Importantly, this vision represents the hope and promise of God for those who faithfully follow and trust in him. It is a promise of an eternal and glorious future for all believers who have been redeemed by God's grace through Jesus Christ. Number 1. The universe. In the Bible, it is presented that God created the universe in the book of Genesis, which is the first book of the Old Testament. According to the biblical narrative, God created the universe in 6 days and rested on the 7th day, which is known as the Sabbath day, or Sabbath. The Genesis account states that God created everything from nothing, ex nihilo. On the first day, God created light and separated light from darkness. On the second day, he separated the waters to form heaven and earth. On the third day, he caused the earth to produce vegetation and plants. The fourth day was when he created the sun, moon, and stars to mark the days and seasons. On the fifth day, God created the fish and birds, filling the seas and sky with life. Finally, on the sixth day, he created the land animals and humans, to whom he gave the mandate to dominate the earth and take care of it. According to the story, God saw that everything he had created was very good. This biblical story has been the subject of interpretations and debates throughout history, and there are different theological and scientific perspectives on the creation of the universe.